Today is Monday, January 6th, 2025, and this is Spring Office Hours, Season 4, Episode 1, Spring Forward 2025 Predictions. My name is Dan Vega, Spring Developer Advocate at Broadcom, joined by my good friend and colleague, DaShaun Carter.
I'm
DaShaun,
here.
how you doing?
It's 2025. And is this the year of the spring developer? I feel like it is. I think 2025 is the year of the spring developer.
It's going to be hard to top 2024. We had a lot of great stuff in 2024. So
and it's just going to get better in 2025. It's already getting better. So what
Season 4, man. This is crazy.
We've been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
It's almost like you would think when somebody says, yeah, this is our 4th season, you would think that maybe these guys know what they're doing, but maybe not. Like, so far so good. We have a great community, and I think that's what's keeping it going.
We do, and we already see Simon here. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year from Simon. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. Awesome. So I thought we did a roundup show to end the year a couple weeks ago. Had a nice little break. I thought it'd be a good time to kind of look at 2025. What's coming in 2025 for Java and Spring developers? We'll take a look at some of the releases that might be coming out. We'll take a look at some of the preview, maybe some of the conferences that are coming up. And then I want to make some predictions. I have a couple categories. I have some of my predictions, DaShaun. I want to get your thoughts on those.
Okay.
And as always, we love answering questions if we can answer. So what do you? Yeah.
Right. When you come to my house for dinner, if you leave hungry, that's your fault. You're here during the live stream. You got questions. If you don't ask those questions, that's your fault. Don't leave hungry. Ask your questions.
How was your break? I see that you're in a hotel room. So
break's not over yet. I told the kids Christmas isn't done until I say it is. So I've got the kids. We're in Florida. The kids are down in the pool right now. Remember, they're having lunch. We're getting ready to get out of here. And good times. So we went from Kansas City. We had a great family holiday session there. And then a bunch of the family went down to Dallas, and we spent a week in Dallas. And then we turned around and took, not everybody, I only have a couple of kids with me. We took part of the family here to Florida. But while we're in Florida, back in Kansas City, they're getting snow and blizzards. So we're going to get back today, but we're not sure.
I can attest to what you're about to go back to, because I left sunny Florida a couple of days ago and came home Saturday to a lot of snow, and that was not fun. We were swimming one day, and then we're in a foot of snow the next day. So that wasn't all that great.
Yeah. Like, hey, here's the first question. Like, guys, what do you think about the job market in 2025? You have thoughts? Have you been looking? Have you been paying attention?
I'm not looking for a job, so no. I'm thankfully very happy where I am. I think you are too. Yeah. But I hear different stories from different people. I think in tech there is always a huge job market, right? I don't know. Maybe we can get somebody on to talk a little bit more about this. We have a friend, Taylor, who may be able to help us out there. But for me, I hear some like very senior developers having hard times finding positions, and very like new developers having a hard time finding positions. I don't know if that's the case. I'm just kind of telling you what I hear from, but I'm always just kind of looking around to see what's out there. And I mean, doesn't seem to be a job shortage. So I don't know the answer to that. I'm not plugged into that community, but I think I don't think it's changing much. I think like one of the things we've seen in I think I put this in my predictions. If I didn't, I'll add it. But return to office. We are returning to offices. So there's going to be, if you're in an area where some of these bigger companies are, and you want to get a job with them, that might help you out, because some people don't want to return to office and they want to work remote. So that might be something you could take advantage of if one of these companies that you're looking to work for in your area. But it's a great question. I don't know the answer to it. Those are kind of just my initial thoughts. How about yours?
I judge based on my network and the people that I talk to. So my communities, my small communities. And, back during COVID, and in and around COVID, there was a number, it was 32. I had 32 friends, colleagues, associate people that were looking for work at the same time. Right now, my network, there's only 2 people that are looking. One is looking for an internship, while they're still in school, and another senior person that's looking for a role. But that's it. Of the network that I have and people that I know that are looking for things, I've only got 2 people that are looking and haven't locked something in.
That's great.
So I think it's looking better.
Yeah, I'm curious if you guys are out there. If anybody has been looking, what's been your process? How's it going for you? I think it's really a case by case basis, right? Some people are really struggling. Some people are getting really good results. I'm not sure, but I know that, speaking of return to office, like I feel like as an industry, we hired a lot during COVID, right? Because we were able to. We're not in an office. We hired more people, and then I feel like as we're starting to return to office, we started ramping down on hiring. So we may not be hiring as much as we were 4 years ago, but that could just be because of COVID. So,
and it's different that, I try to keep tabs on like the startups and where those are going, right? As the big enterprise companies slow down their hiring, guess what? At the same time, there's a bunch of other small startups that are doing well and they're ramping up, right? They're going from the 10 to 30 or 10 to 50 people. So they are hiring, and there's a lot of folks, senior folks that I'm seeing going into these smaller companies having a blast because their input has really big effect on what's happening, at these earlier stage companies. So awesome. I also see that.
Here's a comment from Dinesh. I'm looking for new grad opportunities. It's been hard. I've applied for around 3,000 plus jobs. Wow, that is crazy. But thank you guys. I try to connect with people who come on the podcast and get referrals.
Yeah,
that's great.
Right on.
I haven't done it in a while, but I do remember applying for jobs on something like LinkedIn. It's so easy to just like click an apply button too. Like you mass applying to thousands of jobs. I feel like you've got to find a way to kind of make yourself stick out and not just be somebody else who applied to another job, right? I don't know the answer to that, but I think this will make for a really good episode. So let us see if we can't find someone who has a little bit more knowledge in this area. And I have a couple of thoughts or ideas in my head. And maybe we could do an episode on that, because I think that's a really great topic for the new year.
That is. Yeah, I agree. That whole thing about making yourself stick out, right? If the thousands of jobs, applying for thousands of jobs, that's unfortunately, that's pretty common. I'm hearing that people are applying for thousands of jobs as they look. And Dan's a little bit louder. Oh, sorry about that. I'll see if I can.
You sound pretty good to me. I don't know.
All right. This is a thing, and I want to just point out, if you're able to apply for 3,000 jobs, then others are able to apply for those 3,000 jobs as well. So you have to make connections, and this is a thing that it took a long time to figure out. But the relationships that you make, your teammates, your colleagues, your classmates, that's important. And I made a list back in 2000. I made a list of the people, and it was 500 people that I want to work with again. Of all the people that I've ever worked with, I made a list of 500 people that I wanted to work with again or closer with in the future. And that was just a valuable, like, spend time doing that. And then reach out to those people. If you're looking for a job, make that list. Who do you want to work with that you've worked with in the past, or your classmates or other? And then start with that list. Instead of applying for another 1,000 jobs, reach out to those people and ask what they're doing. Ask for their advice. That's my tip. That's what I would do in your spot.
Really glad you brought that up. So I'm working on a book this year with our friend Nate. It's going to be out this year. Fundamentals of Software Engineering. You can find the pre-release on O'Reilly. And the current chapter I'm working on is career management. And I thought, this would be fun to write. Little did I know that this has been my favorite chapter that I've written so far. And I think getting into some of those things, one of the things you just brought up, people get so focused on like vanity metrics, like how many connections do I have on LinkedIn? You could have 10,000, but if none of them are going to refer you to a position at a company somewhere, what's the point of having 10,000 connections, right? It's important to have like real connections on there. So instead of just kind of clicking connect to everybody, try to make connections, try to like foster those connections over time, like be authentic. It's not just about collecting connections, right? It's about connecting with people. So yeah, I have a bunch of tips like that in that book. So I'm excited about that coming out this year. We got a question here. Was wondering what we can expect from Spring in the coming 2 to 3 months. Josh is talking about Spring AI with us in 2 weeks, but there's of course much more than that. Yeah, we have some thoughts on that. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, Spring AI is going to be a big topic this year.
I'm glad you're here. Thank you for the questions. I see you, and I'm glad that you're here.
How is Spring impacting the programming in future? Well, it impacts Java. So it's the largest framework used in the Java space. Java is used in enterprises all over the world. One of the most popular programming languages. You can, up and down, it's usually 1, 2, or 3 popular programming languages in the world used by enterprises everywhere. And I think Spring is going to continue to impact that, make it easier to build enterprise-grade applications using all the different features that we need to use, like connecting to a database, integrating AI into our applications, and so much more. So I think it's just going to keep continuing down that road.
Yeah, look at this. Spencer's here.
Oh, our friend Spencer. Happy New Year to you, my friend.
Absolutely, absolutely. All right.
Hey, if you're joining us here in the live stream, this is great. Please go ahead and keep those questions coming. If you are not here in the live stream, you can catch the replay on the Spring Developer YouTube channel. We also go ahead and take this podcast, this now season 4 podcast, or video live stream, and turn it into a podcast. And you can get that wherever you get your podcasts. So head over there and start. Go ahead and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. That would really help us out. Leave us a review. Hopefully we can get this in front of other people. Really excited to be in season 4. This is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
All right.
Simon is already looking ahead, right?
Oh man. Yes. That's on our list.
Around the corner. We can kind of see things on the calendar. There's a lot going on. Like things move fast. The programming is never going to slow down. Back to the question, like, hey, how is Spring impacting? It makes it easier. It puts that abstraction layer over whatever it is you're doing, and it makes it easier for you to go forward. And the ecosystem is so big that there's connectivity, there's integrations with just about everything that you've ever needed. So yeah, it's a great place to be.
Oh, I have a question here from Long Dev Channel. We know that we have a web client, but now we have a REST client. So could you please talk about exactly sample which situation will we apply to it? So pretty simple. The web client was first. It kind of gave us this nice fluent API. You could use it in reactive applications, and then you could bring in the reactive stack and use it as a blocking client in your Spring MVC applications. That was great, but like, hey, we're in a traditional MVC application. I don't want to bring in the reactive stack just for that client, right? So the REST client was kind of born from that. It gives you this nice fluent API. If you're in a traditional Spring MVC application, use the REST client. If you're in a reactive application using Webflux, use the web client. There might be it's not a one-to-one comparison, but some of the things that have been getting improved lately, like before you couldn't do OAuth 2 authentication on the REST client, you could on the web client. That's been added to the REST client now. We talked to Rob Winch about a month ago now, about some of the improvements in Spring Security 6.4, and that was added there. So for the most part, I think I would just choose REST client if you're in an MVC app and web client if you're in a reactive app.
I think that's safe.
Cool. Okay, so let's talk about looking forward to 2025, things that we're looking forward to. And I want to start with releases. So we know that we get 2 versions of Java and 2 versions of Spring, right? So let's start with Java. JDK 24 is slated for March of this year. And I think I have a link here. I want to go ahead and throw this out in the chat and see if we can't go ahead and share that. But if you head over to openjdk.org, projects JDK 24, you can see a list of features. And wow, JDK 24 is packed full of features. There's a lot going on here. I don't want to go through this is just kind of an overview. We're not going to go through
it's early. And if you're here, I want you to know that you can take the early access release of Java 24. You can take it for a spin. It's available right now, even on SDK Man. So go get it. Go grab it. Take it for a spin, because that's you helping out the Java community, right? If you find something, if it doesn't work for something, raise an issue. But if it's awesome, let your friends know. You get a new Java version every 6 months. Java 24 is right around the corner. Java 23 is already middle-aged.
Yeah, and most of the time when we look at these JEPs, there's only like a handful of them. There's like a ton on here. I can't count them, but I'm guessing like 20 of them, and there's usually like 5 to 10, right?
That's right here. 24 JEPs in JDK.
Oh, 24.
Maybe.
That would be nice. One of the things that kind of sticks out to me, structured concurrency going into another preview. So I was hoping we get that soon, but look like that's going to go into a second preview. Module import declaration, second preview. What else do we have here? The primitive types in patterns, instance of, and switch, second preview. Scope values, again, that kind of goes with structured concurrency and Project Loom. Ahead of time class loading and linking. So this is kind of like Project Crack, right? This is the version in the JDK, kind of like Project Crack, where it's going to load this stuff into like memory, and then you don't have to kind of load it up again, right? Have you had a chance to look at any of this yet?
I'm taking it for a spin. I haven't gone deep, right? My whole thing is like, let me use this new version and let me see how much faster it is. Let me see how much better. Let me see the difference in my container sizes. I'm not going in. I'm not trying to optimize code. I'm trying to get to production, and that's just me. So I do a lot of like comparisons between JVMs, new versions and old versions, just kind of showing. You've seen that. Here's how much better and faster it is. But there's a question here that's kind of related. And Halim Dev says in 2025, what's the roadmap for both Spring Framework and Spring Boot? Why not add GraalVM? We have had GraalVM since Spring Framework 6 and Spring Boot 3.0. You have the ability to make native images, and that dependency, the GraalVM native image support, has been on the initializer. So all that you've got to do is use the -p native, that profile, which is included in the parent POM for both projects, to build a native image. And you can also do the same thing with the build pack. So if you're doing Spring Boot build image, -p native, you'll get a native OCI image that is natively compiled for that operating system and that architecture. So yeah, there you go.
And I will say, like right when that came out, again, Spring had a bunch of support for all of the different dynamic things we were doing in our applications. There's a lot to cover. So at first, when Spring Boot 3.3 and Spring Framework 6 came out, I would still build applications and like run into issues where I gotta like figure out those hints to add. It's gotten really good. I barely have to like touch those anymore.
And that a big part of that is because of that metadata repository from the GraalVM Lab team, where a lot of the other projects that we use, they put all of those hints into that metadata repository so that we get the benefit of it.
And the Spring team has been a huge contributor to that repository. So kudos to them.
Yeah.
Simon says 30 years of Java, and it's worth pointing out that Java 8 is turning 21 in 2 months. Java 8 can drink in the States in 2 months. That's crazy.
What?
So if you're sitting out there and your organization is still on JDK 8, ooh, we got to think about upgrading, man.
What? No, that can't be real. Java 8, that can't be real. Is it?
JDK 8 release date was March 18th. No. 2014.
Yeah.
Oh, 21.
What came out?
Was that 2014? Yeah, no, that's 11 years. I was going to say 21 years. That does seem like a lot.
There you go. I was like, wait a minute.
All right, well, but still 11 years. Time to upgrade.
Still time to upgrade. Right?
Well,
last I checked, there was 432 builds of Java 8.
Wow. That is a lot. All right, so JDK 24 comes out in March. JDK 25 comes out in September. Pretty crazy that we're marching towards JDK 25. Not much on the JEPs yet. They'll probably wait till they kind of finalize JDK 24, and if anything moves over there, we'll see what gets added to that. As far as Spring goes, Spring Boot 3.5 will be released in May of 2025. This is based on Spring Framework 6.2. And then Spring Boot 4.0, DaShaun, is released in November, which will be based on the new Spring Framework 7.0, the new generation of the Spring Framework.
That's wild.
Pretty crazy.
That's wild. And yeah, there's a lot of other cool things. Diego says, I'd like to understand better the Spring Module. This is funny, and because Spring Module has actually been around for a long time. It really it got some additional attention recently. It made it to its GA release, but the whole concept behind Spring Module has been around for a long time. Oliver's put a ton of work into it, but the more we get deeper into workloads, the more I realize, like, wow, this is a concept. This should have been around for a long time. We should have been doing this from the get-go. And I think that, at least for me, I'm always thinking modulith first. As hot and cool as it can be to go to production with microservices, at some point in 2024, I made that switch to my default take is a modulith. And I'm arguing with myself, like, hey, is it better? Is it easier? Can I do all these things? And I'm trying to, like, look backwards. Like, how many projects would have had better success faster if I had started them out as a modulith versus starting them off with a microservice architecture? And sometimes I'm like, ooh, I kind of kick myself a little bit. Spring Modulith is that good. You should be learning it and understanding it better because it is going to help you a lot in the future.
For everyone in the live stream, I put a link to the Spring IO blog post talking about from Spring Framework 6.2 to 7.0. I'll go ahead and add that to the show notes for anybody running on the treadmill right now and listening to us. But yeah, there's a little breakdown there of some of the things that are getting planned for 7.0. And yeah, that's going to be exciting. That's this year, DaShaun.
That is wild. David Kelly's in the house. Asking about open rewrite recipes, and Simon is already answering, which is great. That's why we have a great community. And this, Struts is still a thing. Struts is still a thing. And
I started in Struts a long time ago, 24 years, 22 years ago.
I was doing JSPs. When I was doing JSPs, I wasn't using Struts at the beginning. But yeah, like, Struts has been around for a long time, and it's still there. I don't know how much effort is being put into the Struts framework.
There are commits on it. Yeah, I mean, I last time I looked, there were still being commits on it. So it's being maintained and being added to. So good to see.
And we've had a few people asking about, can we do Struts with Spring? Yes, you can. Is there a Spring Struts project? No, there's a Spring MVC project. But if you would like to see an example, I think that's totally doable. We've done examples of JSPs on this show, building war files. Sometimes, you wonder, like, oh, but I get it. You want to use Struts. You have Struts expertise in the building. So let's make it bootable. And that's I think an absolutely okay approach.
Somebody asked somebody asked, now I have to ask, why use Struts in 2025? Again, maybe you have it in your organization. Maybe, as DaShaun said, you have some organizational expertise around that. You know, it takes a lot to train on something new or move or migrate something to something new when you don't need to. Sometimes you got to pick your battles.
Yeah. And here's the one thing, and I don't know and I haven't looked, but if there's a Struts recipe that can upgrade me to the latest version of Struts versus converting things from Struts to Spring MVC, I'll be honest, I will probably take that path. I will probably upgrade the easy path, get on the latest and greatest version of Struts before I tried to switch to another option.
Yeah, and 20 years ago, I would have been the difference. I would have been like, yeah, let's move everything to my favorite language and framework. But I'm battle tested now, DaShaun. I've seen it all. Like, yes, you have to pick your battles. Like, if there's a reason to move to something else, like because you need functionality, then we can make a case for it. But just to move to something else, just to say that we're on this version or that thing, doesn't generally make sense. It costs money, and we gotta pick our battles.
And every time I have one of those, you brought up Nate, every time I have one of those conversations about, oh, we should switch to this, I hear Nate in my head, and it's like he's my Obi-Wan. He's like, use the Force. No, he's saying you have to stick around long enough to see the results of these decisions that you make. That is experience. You got to stick around. You can't just say, oh, I'm going to switch to this because I saw some blog.
Yeah.
You have to see the results. And this is like the biggest, it's kind of a two-pronged here. Developers are there for a reason. We're there to make money for the company or save the company money or, something, right? Add value. And understanding the cost at which we add value, that's an important thing. Being able to think beyond your feature release and your next release cycle, being able to think above that. Like, what is your manager looking at? What is their leadership looking at? Being able to think about that, it will change the way you think going forward. It'll change the decisions that you make going forward. Like, oh, should I switch to Spring MVC or should I just upgrade?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Seems like a weird spot to be in, but if you can think about it from a little bit higher level, you might understand. You might make a little bit different decision than the one that you're faced with at the keyboard trying to get a new feature out. I get it.
Yep. Just noticed Spring Boot 3.5.x branched in mainline. It's not that far, 5 months away. So 3.5 is coming. Question here. Hi, why not integrate Kotlin exposed as part of Spring Data, Java virtual thread default in MVC apps? More docs about Spring AI, make functional bean registration instead of using annotations.
Lots of good questions.
Lots of good questions. So I think so there's a couple there. Kotlin exposed as part of Spring Data. I'm not sure about that. I know Kotlin has its own. I don't know. Can you not use Kotlin with Spring Data? Is that? I don't think that's a thing, right?
You can.
Yeah. So I'm not sure about that question. So the other one is Java virtual threads as default. So the problem with that there is, again, we talked about some of those other things that aren't in the JDK yet, like structured concurrency and scope values. Flipping that on as a default could kind of break some things in your existing apps. So what we say is, hey, if you want to take advantage of virtual threads, flip that property on. Go through and test your applications and make sure you're not running into any of those conditions. So that's probably why there. More docs about Spring AI. I'm going to fight you on this one, sir. I think the Spring AI docs are great. Anytime I got a question, I go to the Spring AI docs. So there's the Spring AI docs. If you go to the main README, that links to a repo that we started called Awesome Spring AI. Bunch of resources to some other things that you can take a look at. We also started a new repo for Spring AI examples. Those were, I've been adding some things to that. The team has been adding some things to that repo. So look for that to get a lot more examples in 2025. And I think between those three things, you're going to be, there's a lot there. And also, I am putting together a nice course on Spring AI for YouTube very soon. So be on the lookout for that. But yeah, I think the docs are great.
This is awesome. Lots of good questions, and thank you everybody for all the questions and all the feedback. Simon, we're talking about struts, and yeah, but what about for a new project? If you've got expertise in the building, right? I'll put it like this: if I've got an Oracle expert in the building, I'm probably going to lean into Oracle versus going to anything else, right? If I've got expertise in the building, how about let's lean on that expertise versus trying to grab something new. So that might be, again, one of the decisions that plays in. I actually have a friend who is a committer for that Struts project. So yeah, it works. I get it.
And like we not only work for the company that maintains Spring, but we're also big fans of the Spring project before we started here. But I'm also a Java developer. Like I support all of the projects in the ecosystem. This isn't like turf wars. Like if you have 10 developers in house that know Struts, use Struts. I mean, it just makes sense, right? Like maybe there's a reason, maybe you have some requirements that on a project where that may not work, then let's go ahead and look at something else. But yeah, I'm a fan of Java, DaShaun.
Simon also went out and looked and found that there is a Struts recipe. So upgrading some level of Struts, like fantastic. That's fantastic news. Eric says, "Hey, will there be any new Spring modules for 2025?" Maybe.
I don't know.
There's a process. They have to be experimental, and there's like a graduation process. So what you want to look at the Spring Projects -experimental GitHub and look at those. And if there's something in there that you would like to become a new project, you should go and put a little star on it. Say, I like that project. Spring CLI.
Yeah, and there rarely will something jump that and just become like a project. So that's a really good place to look. Two things I've got my eye on this year, and kind of jumping into like some predictions, but we'll come back to it. But obviously Spring AI is a big project that is going to hit GA this year. We're not going to release dates on that yet, but that will hit GA this year. Another project I'm really excited about is Spring gRPC. The great Dr. Dave Sire is working on that. He was on Josh's podcast, A Beautiful Podcast. I had a chance to listen to that. So I'm interested in that. That is experimental, but you can find it on the Spring Initializer. That's actually added there. So if you're interested in gRPC support, go ahead and check that out.
Here's two questions that are very relevant to each other. Smith is saying, hey, the Spring Certified Professional V2, is that still relevant? Yes. And then down here, let's get, hi, welcome. Say, do you have any recommendations for how to approach reading up towards the Spring certification? Yes. If you would like to get certified, it is so much easier now and more affordable, and it is still relevant. I still look at people that have that certification, and I hold them in high regard. We have a few in our community here. Spring.academy will take you to where you need to go. You get access to all the material that you need to pass the certification. And if you sign up there, you can pay for a year. You get a year of the Pro Access, but the Pro Access just means you get a
no. Everything is free now.
Everything is free.
Remember,
so
everything
is free. On Spring Academy, you're signing up. You're getting the access for the test to take the test.
So you have to purchase the certification voucher, but all the materials that you want to go through, those are free now. So really great resource to kind of ramp up on everything Spring. But we mentioned this a lot on the show. We've talked about certifications a lot. Is it worth it to get a certification? Really, it's just a piece of paper. Some employers may hide that, make that, hold that in high regards. But I always say, like, the destination is not the goal, right? It's the journey to get there. That journey of you going through and realizing that I want to get certified. How do I do that? I make a plan. These are the things I need to learn. You study, you go through courses, you go through Spring Academy, you read a book. It's that process of going through that certification. Once you go through that and put in the hard work, the certification's easy, right? but it's about the journey, not the destination. So I think in that regards, I'm a big fan of certifications.
Fantastic.
All right.
Do you have predictions for 2025?
One second. One thing we were looking forward to 2025. I was just wanted to point out one more thing. Conferences that we're looking forward to. So there are a bunch of conferences, Java conferences. These are the ones that are kind of on my radar. So CodeMash, I'll be at CodeMash next week, which is exciting. It's an hour, like less than an hour drive, so I get to drive up there. Confu in Montreal. Some of the best food I've ever had at a conference. Really looking forward to that one again. The big one this year, and always, DevNexus. We will both be at DevNexus. I'm excited about that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Java 1 is returning to Redwood, California. I got invited to speak there, so I'm excited about that one. I applied to a bunch of DevOps conferences. Haven't heard anything yet. DaShaun, I'm manifesting this into the atmosphere, okay? I have spoken at a lot of conferences. I have never spoken at a DevOps conference. So I'm putting this in the air. Good vibes only in 2025. I think this is going to be the year I speak at a DevOps.
I'm also, I'm going to be doing more conferences, more jugs. I'm making an effort.
Nice.
You know, when jugs are looking for somebody, I'm going to,
yes,
if I can go, I'll go on my own dime to help. Right. The jugs are a valuable part of our community. And I wouldn't be where I'm at without the Kansas City jug. So in 2025, I'm making a concerted effort to do more conferences, more jugs. I don't have the high expectations. I know where I sit, but I'm going to do more. I'm going to be doing
jugs
more.
Are awesome. I love jugs. I did a bunch last year, but they were virtual. If any jugs want to fly me and DaShaun out, we'll be there. DaShaun, if you want to pay my way too, I'll come with you.
There you go. The one talk that I have happening this year that I have spent more mental effort on than any other than the next 4 combined, and I think it's going to be my best talk ever.
Oh man.
And I'm really looking forward to that. And I'm going to deliver that at the Code Remix Summit.
Nice.
In Miami.
Yeah.
I am so pumped for that. And I think that, I'm really excited for that one.
That's going to be awesome.
Good stuff. Conferences, talks, and the prep. Never been more prepared than I am.
A couple other I wanted to point out. Spring IO in Barcelona is happening again. I have not submitted to that yet. I'm going to. Hopefully we can get back to there. That's a lot of fun. Spring 1, we'll be back in Vegas this year at VMware Explore in a different capacity. There's not a lot of details around it yet, but excited to kind of talk about that as we get some more details along the way. So we will be back in Vegas this year. That's always fun. KCDC kind of moved. It was in June, right? Now we're in August, I think.
Yep.
Always love going to Kansas City and getting some barbecue with my friend DaShaun. So,
and
that'll be
I love the DevOps Days. If you've got a DevOps Days event around, I know it's a little bit different than a spring, but that's kind of where I sit. I really do love the DevOps Days conferences, and I think they're good for spring developers as well.
Yeah, and then there are a few others. Dev2 Next, I was at last year in Texas. That is going on again, and a few others. So looking forward to speaking both at conferences, jugs. You and I will be visiting some customers this year. We have some exciting plans around that. So it's going to be a fun year of doing our thing, going around and talking about the things that we love to talk about. It doesn't even feel like work at times. Well, I'll tell you what, the expense report does. But other than that,
thanks for it. Paladin, I am definitely going to be in the Netherlands later this year, and I am going to be I'm going to be giving you a buzz because when I make that trip over the pond, I want to maximize it. So I want to be able to visit as many folks and communities as I can. So I will be in touch.
I think we had this question last week and I didn't know the answer to it. Spring 6.3x still uses Kotlin 1.9.x. However, Kotlin is in version 2.1. So why not upgrade to Kotlin 2? I don't know the answer to that. We'll have to ask the great folks on the Spring team when that is. I would imagine something in 3.5, but we'll ask. Okay, so that was my kind of looking forward, some things we got to look forward to in 2025.
You want the answers to that? Here it is. Right there with the answers. You want to find out what's going on? Hey, here, go look at the tracker. Kotlin 2 is a baseline.
Nice. Cool. So let's get into some predictions.
Spencer, co-creator, co-founder,
there you go.
Spring Cloud. He's answering. Spring doesn't usually upgrade dependencies to a new major version in minor or patch releases.
Oh, that makes sense.
We'll use 2.1.
Okay, that makes sense.
Much, more concise and that makes sense.
Perfect. Okay, so that was things we're looking forward to in 2025. I want to do some predictions, and I want to start with Spring Office Hours, DaShaun.
Okay.
We had a pretty good year in season 3, 45 episodes. If I'm doing math correctly, there are 52 weeks in the year. There were only 7 weeks we did not do a Spring Office Hours. So my question to you is over under 45 episodes for 2025.
Over.
I knew you were going there.
Over.
Because there's no rule about doing 2 in a week, so we could easily get there.
Over. Especially when we go to conferences. I have so much fun doing those. And one of my favorite things is when we do go to conferences. I love it when people are like, hey,
just walking by.
You're the guy from Spring Office Hours. I love that. That's we get recognized for this show.
And I remember doing our live show at KCDC, and Mark Heckler was walking by, and we just brought him onto the show.
How lucky are we?
That was a lot of fun.
We got to definitely do those.
We'll revisit that. Topics. I want to say that if you head over to springofficehours.io, there is a way to suggest topics, and we have gotten some really good suggestions for shows. We hear you, even if we have not replied to those emails yet that come in, but we are already going to start scheduling some of those because we had some really good topics, and I can't wait to get to those. And we want to hear from you. So what do you want us to talk about? We could come on here and just ramble for an hour, but if you want a specific topic, please do let us know.
That helps. I like looking forward to topics when we have things that are on the schedule, a week ahead of time. I love seeing that because then I get to think about those topics. And a lot of times when we put that topic out, when we announce, hey, we're going to do an episode about this, we start to get the questions and we start to get insights before the show, which makes the show even better. If you got topics you'd like to discuss or you'd like to hear us discuss, go to springofficehours.io.
All right, some more predictions. AI, obviously a huge topic.
You think it's
prediction? I think it's going to stick. I don't think it's going anywhere. Right. One of the things that I just heard is that Sam Altman came out and basically said that they think they understand how to build AGI and that we may see hints of it in 2025. So this is really an open-ended question. Will we see AGI in 2025? Could be yes, could be no. So many people have different definitions of what AGI is. So it's hard to answer that question.
Developers in general make bad predictions on how long things are going to take, even when they know that they make bad predictions on how long things are going to take. Even then, we make bad predictions on how long things are going to take. But I don't want to sound like a curmudgeon. I don't want to say no, there's no way it's going to be here. I want to be optimistic.
Yeah.
But
you just made me relive 20 years of software development. Anytime anybody asks me, how long is this feature going to take? I think it'll take a week, so probably 3 months. I just had no clue how long things would take. But that'll be something to watch out for. Another thing I think we're going to see a lot of that you'll hear a lot of, you heard a lot of going into the end of 2024 into 2025 is this idea of AI agents, these kind of agentic workflows. Like I have all these like little specialized agents that know how to do this one particular task, and I can even stitch them together into these large workflows that kind of really make AI more useful for us.
I've had this metaphor in my head where AI is, if you're using AI today, it's like you were using spreadsheets back in 1980. If you had the ability to go in and adopt this technology of spreadsheets, and I could sum a column, I could do all this math on it. If you were able to adopt and use that technology in the 80s, yeah, you were going to do more things faster, better, and be a little bit more productive. And today with AI, I think of it as just like using a spreadsheet. If you can figure out how to write an agent to do something specific for your use case, your domain that you're in, if you can figure out how to use these GPTs safely, and you can wire them together just like you would a spreadsheet in the 80s, that metaphor still sticks. And even more so now that we're talking about this agentic approach and the MCP, that metaphor still sticks with me. Like, I think that that's where we're at. And I'll be honest, I need to do more of it. I need to be using more of the capabilities, technology that's there in my day-to-day life so that I can do the other fun stuff. The fun stuff.
Yep. Along those lines, I think continued growth of AI-assisted coding tools and co-pilots, helping us write code, not taking our jobs away, just making us more productive, as you said. I think that's only going to get better and better. Some of these tools out there, you can kind of one-shot prompt them and zero-shot prompt and say, hey, build me a React app that does this and connects to a Spring Boot app on the back end and does this. And they get pretty good results, like right out of the box. And I forget who I was talking. I think I was talking with you about this, but like having the kind of institutional knowledge and experience really helps in those situations, because you see some of the things that it starts building and you go, nope, I didn't mean that. I need you to iterate on this and build it this way.
Yep.
But man, they're getting really good, and we're still in the infancy of this. So I expect that to only get better and better. As you said, I think really focused on privacy when it comes to AI. I know one thing that you're big into is kind of running models locally if you can. And I know that like all of these, like, the big companies out there, the OpenAIs, the Anthropics, the Microsofts, the Googles, they have these huge models that they've poured billions of dollars into, right? Those are still going to be very relevant. But I think we're going to start to notice like these smaller models that are very focused on one specific thing that you can run locally on your laptop or your Raspberry Pi, if you will.
Yeah. Another thing that I heard come out of the OpenAI news feed was that their professional $200 a month subscription, they're losing money on it.
Yeah.
Because once people have figured out like how to incorporate it into what they're doing, it's actually costing them more. So they're losing money right now, which I think they've been losing money the whole time.
Yeah, I think they're not going to be profitable for another like 3 years, they said, which is crazy.
But in the vein of I'm running things locally, I did get a Jetson Orin. So I will be using that to run these models locally. The Raspberry Pis are great.
That's the NVIDIA thing, right? The NVIDIA.
Yep. So it's got a ARM64 processor, but then it also has a NVIDIA GPU.
Do you have that in hand already? Is that already?
It'll be there when I get home. Again, I'm not home.
Nice.
It's
nice.
There, yeah.
That's pretty cool.
I got
you have to report back to us on that.
I absolutely will. And with that, I spent a lot of time kind of dusting off and kicking off the home lab. We built a Raspberry Pi cluster. That was a question on the last show. Like, hey, how do Kubernetes on Raspberry Pis if I got more than one node? It should have been a 30-minute, like step 1, step 2, step 3. The biggest thing was installing the operating system, but I started from scratch, from brand new box, opened it up, and we did it. But went through that, and it was a great experience. Lots of good questions. But it was a 4-node cluster. That $400 cluster with everything, it does rival the Mac Minis that everybody's all excited about. Like when you look apples to apples, having 64 cores versus 50 cores or 8 cores on the Mac Mini, and I had 16 cores on this little $400 Raspberry Pi cluster. GPU different, but tit for tat, I was including the networking and everything in that $400 price. So you can do a lot, and understanding that I can still run Spring Boot on these things. I'm also a big believer that in 2025 we're going to see even more workloads, Spring Boot enterprise grade production ready workloads out on the edge, outside of our traditional data centers, outside of our traditional cloud providers. We're going to see more and more of these out on the edge, is what I'm going to call it, edge native. And that's our Spring Cloud project lends itself not just to clouds and data centers, but also to edge use cases. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in 2025.
Nice. All right. Another topic I had was quantum computing. And I don't think people are talking about this enough. At the end of 2024, there was an announcement from Google on their new Willow chip. Did you get a chance to take a look at this?
I did. I did see the announcement, and I did see some of the statements, and I did see that one little blip in one of the write-ups.
That's what I was going to talk about.
Where it's like, maybe there is multiple universes. Maybe?
This is what is just blown my mind. Like, how are we not talking about this more? But yeah, let me find. I just kind of posted this in the chat. I'll put this in the show notes for anybody listening. But yeah, one of the things in here. So basically, it performed a computation in under 5 minutes that would take one of today's fastest supercomputers. So today is pretty good. 10 to the 25th, or 10 septillion years, which is more time than the universe has been around, right? The mind-boggling number, so that it lends credence to the notion that quantum computation occurs in many parallel universes, in line with the idea that we live in a multiverse, a prediction first made by David Deutsch.
In the statement that this is coming out, like, what? And we're just gonna oh, well, that's interesting, and read it and go on.
I just, this article came out and everybody just kind of glanced over and said, "Who's playing tonight? Like, who's what NBA games are on tonight?"
I immediately went over to our good friend at Java Expert on Twitter, James Weaver, former Spring developer advocate. I'm going to listen to what he's talking about very closely. This is something that has been on my radar purely because of James Weaver. And somebody asked earlier, like, if there's a new module that comes out, I would love to see a Spring Quantum module. I don't know what that even means, but man, I can get my hands on one of these Willow chips. Of course, I want to use Spring.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of what I saw in this is very future technology, but just the thought of that is like really exciting, and also a little bit terrifying. So the other thing I was thinking about, and I heard brought up on a podcast, like if there's a computer that's fat, it could basically break the blockchain right now. If it
what about crypto? Thank you for going there. Yep. What about crypto? Is it really safe?
Yeah, that's the other part of it. It's like, well, I could just build the entire blockchain.
Right. So yeah, we got some things. There's some things. And there was I'm not going to try to, rack my brain on this, but yeah, it brings up a lot of interesting questions for 2025.
Yeah.
Like if there's a chip here that's available that can, solve septillion year problems in 5 minutes, do you really feel safe with all your money in crypto?
I don't feel safe with my money anywhere. Anywhere. I might have to get a safe in the house now.
Even at the bank, I don't feel safe.
But man. But yeah, passwords are no longer safe. I mean, those can be broken in less than a second.
Who needs a rainbow table?
Yeah.
Not me.
Right. Dan says, what security keys?
What good is that?
Yeah. So yeah, that caught my eye. Again, that's very future, but I'm just going to be paying attention to what's going on in that space this year because that's really interesting.
In my head, I'm just trying to figure out like what is security going to look like, because you know how like you have the time-based things like, yeah, you got to fill this in like 30 seconds. I don't feel safe now. Like you're giving me 30 seconds to type in this. No, I want it to be 5 seconds. If I can't type it in 5 seconds, give me a new one.
I mean, just thinking of like countries too, like getting their hands on this technology, like good or bad, like there's a bunch of implications there.
Oh boy. Yep. 2025.
So between quantum computing and AI, I'm both excited and very terrified of the future. And I'm usually
terrified.
A little terrified, and I'm usually pretty much a half glass full kind of guy, but it's a little empty. One more thing I kind of put down that I have not gotten into yet, but I'm still really high on this technology is augmented reality. Will we start to see some more continued evolution of augmented reality technologies? What do you got here? You got some Ray-Bans?
Oh, the Nreals.
Oh man, what are those? The Nreals?
Nreal. Yep.
Who is that from?
I'm a big fan.
Oh man, yeah. So I know there's who makes those?
Nreal. Nreal.
Yep. Cool. And so I'll have to check those out. I know there's the Ray-Ban Meta smart glasses out there. There's the Apple Vision Pro, different kind of levels of things, but I have not gotten a pair yet, and I think this is the year I'm going to get into some of this and see where this technology is because I think it could be really cool, and I'm excited. It can be.
And maybe you've seen I've been messing with JavaFX a lot lately because I have this idea. There's a lot of areas where Spring Boot actually helps, and we can do some really cool things. AR and VR is one of them because VR is also a thing. And the technology is pretty amazing. It's come a long way really fast, and I think it's just going to continue to get better. But the ecosystem, I still think needs a little bit more help. I think there's a lot of room for growth, and I think a framework like Spring Boot, Spring Cloud, I think could play really nicely in some of these new ecosystems that are out there.
I think like one of my dreams of like AR VR has always been from a teaching side of things, right? Zoom is not great for Zoom's great for like catching up with somebody really quickly, but like you have this like room full of people, like 10, 15, 20 people. Some people have their cameras off, some people are not paying attention. From a let's get together and like learn something perspective, it's not great. I get really excited about the thought of like AR VR and all of us sitting in like a virtual room. And I don't know how great it looks yet, but like just sitting around and like, let's talk about this one thing. And now like everybody's kind of engaged that way. Like you're not engaged on a Zoom call as much as you could be with like AR VR. So that for me is I'm ready for that. Whenever that can get here, that's what I'm really excited about.
Fantastic.
You know what I liken it to? Do you remember? You're a runner, so we've done this. Do you remember running with the big patch on your arm and the big cord running up under your shirt and into your ears, and it's just never really comfortable? And then the watch came out and the wireless earphones, and you're like, oh, I feel free. Like that's the kind of feeling I get when I think about like being able to like sit in a room virtually and like teach somebody something.
Absolutely. Technology is wild.
It is. It's great. I mean, we love it. That's why we're here. Cool. All right. So I think we're coming up on it. That was what we're looking forward to in 2025. Some of our predictions. If you are catching us on the replay, leave your predictions in the comments. We'd love to go through those and kind of hear what you have to say. Again, springoffstars.io. Head over there. Please suggest a topic. If you want to see something, if you want to hear something from us, we can go ahead and put that together. We had a great suggestion today talking about the job market. I think that would be a really good show. See if we can get someone plugged into that. and talk about job market in 2025. And we've gotten some really good suggestions. So we'll start scheduling out season 4, DaShaun. Pretty crazy to think about.
Exciting. And I'm here for it.
My
favorite part of the week.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Now we got to get over 45 shows this year. So let's do it.
All right. You heard it here first. Let's do it. Everyone, thank you so much for joining. This is great.
Yep. We'll be back next week with a new show. Thank you, everyone. Have a good one. Happy New Year.